Friends, hopefully I am not freezing up on you today. Okay, so today is our Friday weekly wrap up. My computer always runs slow right in the morning, so I don't know if this is going to be a little bit jumpy, but it looks like today, surprise, surprise, is take your kid to work day. Whoops. Let's just see what happened. Oh, I'm still there. Okay, so it looks like today's take your kid to work day. You know, when you have no school and you work from home, I guess it's always take your kid to work day. So, Andrew, this is Andrew. He's in 9th grade.
Hello.
And would you like to tell a funny joke?
Okay. So I heard this one, and the one I heard said, why do people when they go golfing, why do they have 2 pairs of socks? Just in case one has a hole in one.
Okay, that's what our lovely education system is teaching our children. All right. And so my other one is downstairs. Speaking of which, last night, Joshua's school, they went down to the BYU basketball game and they did the national anthem. And so he did really good. They were signing it, which I was very surprised because Joshua has this big thing. He hates sign language. I think it's a little bit because when he was really little, I was trying to sign with him. And then when we were in Japan, he... the speech therapist that he did not like, and she was having some of the other students who are nonverbal sign, and he has this thing. So he does not like me ever to use the word sign language, but he did beautifully there, so it's all in context. And I have it in my stories, and I will post it on my timeline a little bit later. But the funny thing is, so we had to take him to school. He had to change into his clothes. He had a little backpack, and I gave him a snack, and I told him to put his snack in the backpack so he could take it with him. So when they get back to the school and in the parking lot, I'm picking him up, and he has his backpack, and he comes here, and then later at night we realize that he doesn't have his street shoes or his clothes. They are still inside the classroom. He didn't put it in the backpack. He just put his snack, the important thing, inside the backpack. So today we have to go back to his school and pick that up. So he doesn't have street shoes. So he's going to have to wear the nice dress shoes to go pick up his street shoes. And yesterday, Moy had a really exciting day, I guess, because he got to go to Vegas with work, so it wasn't like a fun trip. But there was a whole bunch of apartments that needed to be finished so they could re-rent them. And so they got a few different maintenance people from other buildings in the area. And he got to go and he got to fly in a private plane and he got to sit in the cockpit. So I think that part was exciting. He had long hours. He got back at like almost 10 o'clock last night. But I think that was probably a cool experience. It was different than flying Space Aid when obviously the quality of the airplane was slightly different, but it was a small plane. And it reminded him, he was in an 8-seater, so it reminded him of when we were in Guatemala one time and we were flying from Tikal to Guatemala City, and it was a 10-seater airplane, but we were waiting forever. It was super hot. We couldn't figure out what was going on. And then they bring on this guy in a stretcher to have him in the front 2 seats, like across the aisle. And he was like had a gunshot wound. He was like from one of the guerrillas or whatever, and he was they were flying him to the city, to the hospital. So we all had to fly on this plane with this wounded guerrilla soldier or whatever. So he was kind of reminded of that. However, obviously it was a little bit better yesterday. I told you guys in the last couple times about my scanner, and I got this other program that it's a separate company, but they work together. So the program, I had to buy a new computer just to run it on, but it broadcasts healing signals. And what I like, the reason I like it is because I can take the BioWell scan. That if let's say you came here in person and I scan your fingers, I can upload that to the computer, and that's one of it'll input it, and then it'll broadcast to that person the signal. So it's all based on quantum physics. So that's kind of nice. So if anybody is listening and I've already scanned you and you want me to do that, then let me know, and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to charge you anything because I'm in my introduction stages. I've been doing it on myself. I actually have noticed some interesting things, so that was interesting. And yesterday, or the last couple of days, the big thing is our kitty was really sick, and I was actually getting really worried because, I know cats are resilient, and so I thought, well, it's not feeling well, I ate something. But yesterday, it was like she had lost a lot of weight just in less than 2 days. She was very weak, and then all of a sudden, she was kind of sitting with me because she was just basically not going anywhere, and so she was sitting with me, and then I noticed her head was twitching, and that really scared me because I knew it was that could be neurological, and I felt it on the back of her neck. So I don't know if it was if it was like a muscle spasm or if it was a neurological twitch. But I had many years ago a rabbit who I was cleaning the porch one day, and I think I was using Pine Sol, and I let her out, and then I let her back in, and I don't think I rinsed it well enough because I think that the toxin of the chemical, this is this is before I had any children, and I think she had licked the toxin, because then the next day she had this neurological damage that started at her feet and then went all the way up to her head, and we were at the vet and she died. So I was a little bit worried about that. So I put a patch on the cat after I saw her twitching. I had a patch kind of on her back, but then when I saw her head twitching, I put a patch right on her head, and I had to go somewhere, and I came back, and she was up, and she was around, and she was purring, and she was meowing. She wasn't running around yet, but she was starting to eat. So now this morning she's totally back to normal, so I'm really glad about that. So I was a little bit worried, realized how much I actually really like my kitty. Excuse me. So I want to talk a little bit about potassium. If I don't, I have something in my throat now. We're going to continue our little series on minerals, and remember we have 4 macro minerals. We have calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. So we're on potassium, and potassium is considered the primary solvent mineral, and it's an intercellular mineral. It's actually very important. It regulates blood pressure with sodium. So sodium and potassium are on that teeter-totter, so they're the sodium-potassium pump when you hear about the cell membrane. It influences the cell membrane permeability. It sensitizes the cell to thyroid hormone, so that sounds quite important actually, especially for us people worried about our thyroid and our hormones. Nerve conduction of the heart, so that's why it has a lot to do with blood pressure and heart. Lowers the heart rate and dilates the arteries. So if you ever get a blood test and you have high potassium in your blood, it actually means that you are probably means that you are losing it from the cell. So you're actually really in need of it. But it's one of those things that sometimes on the test it looks like you have too much, but when you have too much, sometimes it actually means you're depleted because it's not doing the right thing. Conditions, most people are deficient in potassium. It's way more common. So you can have allergies, constipation, fatigue, irregular heartbeats, low blood pressure, muscle weakness, skin problems, water retention, and slow oxidation. And hold on just a second. Magnesium, sodium, calcium, iron, zinc, phosphorus, manganese, and B6 all work really well with potassium, but calcium and sodium both can work against it. So again, they have to be in balance. They're kind of antagonists and synergists all at the same time. The best form of potassium is glycinate, gluconate, or carbonate. Either, if you're going to take a supplement about 300 to 900 milligrams a day, you actually need about 4,500 milligrams of potassium a day, and we should be getting most of it from our food. The celery is a really great source of potassium. So if you drink celery juice, or if you make a bone broth and put vegetables that are rich in potassium in it, that's probably the best way to get your potassium. Okay, so Monday we'll continue with, we call it the second level minerals, but these are kind of the beginning of the micro minerals. And in the comments, I will put a link if anybody's interested in getting the hair tissue mineral analysis. So remember, we can get a blood analysis, and you can get analysis from your hair. So until then, have a great weekend. Hope everybody had a happy Valentine's Day, and I will see everybody on Monday. Okay, bye-bye.